Hey, this is Richard Miller with Goldie May, and this is the Unrehearsed Research Series. Watch as James Tanner and I, along with invited guests, work through a genealogy problem with no script and no agenda. You might learn from the big strategy or from features in the tools, or if you see a better way to do it, please leave a comment so we can all learn. Now, on to the research. Okay, welcome to episode 23. I'm here with James Tanner, and today, James, I wondered if we could go back to one of the cases we've looked at before. This is an ancestor in my wife's family, and I'll share my screen. And we're trying to do this in a way that you don't have to have seen those previous episodes, but I think there's value in kind of building on what we've done before and showing the process continue on. So I'm looking again at this America Jane Overlin, and I thought I could just remind James and the viewers what's going on here, and then we could just kind of push forward on this if that works. So this is the the person whose parents we don't know or aren't sure about. We have a church record saying that America's parents were William I. Overlin and Maria Wilson, and we really just don't have much more after that. She's the one that's born and lived in Indiana, Kentucky area, kind of the border there, and then goes to Nauvoo and then makes her way west to Utah. And all of she has a lot of sources, and her immediate family seems pretty solidly documented, but her parents are really slim, 2 sources. Maria's got 1. And really it's just kind of this church record that we found previously on MyHeritage that mentions her parents being named William I and Maria. That's not even really what's on the tree. On the tree, it's William L and Maria. But anyway, we also know that America married William Davis in Spencer, Indiana, and it's got the officiator's name. So I wondered if, James, we could push back more in this area and just try to narrow down where do we go when we really don't have a lot for the parents, but we, I guess, kind of do have a place that it's this Spencer County, Indiana on the border of Kentucky, and we have some names for the parents. What would we do next to sort of look for the William and that particular Maria in those areas and try to correlate it with America Jane?
Okay, so we always start with what we know, and we go to what we don't know. And it's helpful to make sure we know what we know, if that seems to make sense.
Mm-hmm.
If we don't know what we don't know what we know, then we aren't able to use what we know to find what we don't know. And so it's always helpful to keep reviewing and making sure that the information that we have presently. Now, you have 44 sources here, and let's look, first of all, where all the children were born, because we have a place where the marriage was apparently happened in Spencer, Indiana. But let's
and if I can use the subway map for that might help.
Yeah,
Let me just go ahead and do
whatever's fastest way to do that.
Okay, so that's marriage in Spencer County, Indiana.
Mm-hmm.
And then you start to see the children here: Nauvoo, Illinois, Kentucky.
Okay, so
Iowa, Utah. When I've looked at, let me pull this up to the state view. This one zigzags back, and I wonder if this child, we've looked at this, I think, before, but I wonder if this child has the wrong birthplace, because it puts him back in Kentucky, whereas I think the family's kind of gone on from Indiana to Illinois to Iowa.
So let's just check that one first. Look at that child. It's James. And see if there's a birth record. Go to sources or wherever and see. Well, actually, you can just click on the birth.
Right one here.
When you go down to the birth, if you just edit it, go to edit the birth.
To see the sources there.
Yeah, then it'll show the sources. So it's showing him in the census. It's showing him, let's see what it says in the census where it says he was born in Iowa.
The 1850?
Yeah, 1850 census.
Birthplace, Iowa.
He's in Iowa. So the census says he was born in Iowa, and you've got
got multiple Iowas. Yeah. Interestingly, right here as the fact we have Kentucky, but that doesn't really match the censuses. And then we, of course, the life sketch puts him in Illinois. So there's kind of three
Well,
different things here going on. And the sketch, can get out of sync pretty quick with the rest of the records.
one thing you need to understand is that Hancock County is right across the Mississippi River from Iowa.
Okay. So no concern there on the Iowa as much as maybe
No,
Kentucky.
they did go back and forth, and people did have farms and things on both sides of the river.
Okay.
So right across from Nauvoo, Illinois is in Hancock County is Keokuk, Iowa.
So possibly they're kind of treating it as one kind of region or something.
Well, he could have been, because that's something that she could have been traveling because of going from a farm to the town to the farm or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean,
Okay.
there was a lot of back and forth. Some of my own relatives who had land in Nauvoo also had land in other parts in Iowa.
So that could be
So
back
it
and
wasn't
forth.
unusual for that to
Okay.
have happened. If you want to pull up a map, you
Here's
can
the-
see how close
Yeah, I
it
was going to
is.
say this is the one census record that gives a city, and so we could open
Well,
up that
Decatur is not close.
one. Not close. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, it's too low, too high. Okay, here we go.
See, that's 144 miles west. If he was
Okay.
born at that time, that's when they were leaving off. What's the date? The birth.
48.
Yep.
Okay, and this one puts it at 47. I mean, the estimated is 48, but the full birth date's 47. So
See, that's exactly
fits.
when he was leaving. So he was one of those
Mhm.
children born in the middle of the march across the country.
Okay. So at some point I need to,
So
and that's funny to see this reason here too, right? This is, I have James Davis's original journals that confirm in his own words, I was born in Warren County, Kentucky. But he of course didn't observe his own birth, right? So we don't know that he was
okay.
in
So
Kentucky.
let's put Warren County on there between the places that he may have actually been born.
Okay.
Not likely.
Not likely. Okay.
600 miles.
Yeah, that's not so.
Okay, so here's another question that would solve that, or at least make it less believable, or maybe there's a different story already, all completely, and that is start with that, go back to the list of the children.
Oh, so America Jane's children.
Yeah. So
Okay.
who was born before him?
Margaret.
See, 46 in Nauvoo.
46
Why
in
would they have
Nauvoo.
gone 600 miles east to have another child?
Yeah. So we would just say probably his journal is wrong, apparently.
Either his journal is
About his own
wrong,
birth.
he's wrong, or you've got the wrong person, or something's really strange.
Okay.
And the other thing would be look at that first child again to see if she was actually born. Let's see if we have a record that shows she was born in Nauvoo.
Okay, let's look at that.
Census.
Censuses say Illinois. On the off chance that one of those isn't tagged to a birth, let's just look in the list as well.
Where's the death certificate say she was born? There's a membership
See if this
record.
is for her. You saw one?
Yeah, you're
Okay,
down there.
19.
You're way down there is the membership after Margaret.
Oh, okay, and I see this one here too. Let's see.
Illinois. Okay.
Illinois is
She didn't know she didn't know that, whoever gave this when she died did not know the name of her mother's maiden name.
oh yeah, okay. And let's see, I'm not seeing, I see right there, Birthplace, Illinois. Okay, yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Okay. So the next one is born in Iowa, out on the
Iowa.
plains. The next one is born even further out on the plains.
Okay. So the
And
order's
then
looking good.
one's finally born in Springville.
Okay.
Now, this is
Maybe we
an
have that.
interesting one. Let's do Springville, Utah. Look up
Sorry, do what
Springville.
with it?
We're looking up Google's search for Springville,
Hmm.
Utah, just as about the city. If you want to get to it, look at this Wikipedia article down there. Springville Wikipedia over on the left, excuse me. Yeah, there you go. It will tell you when it was founded, history. Was
1850
explored,
settled.
etc., incorporated in 1853. And when did they get there? She says he was born in 1852 in Springville. He wasn't. He wasn't born in Springville in 1852. 53.
Could
They
it have
called
been
it Hobble
settled
Creek.
before it was incorporated?
Uh-huh. Well, it was incorporated in 1853. It says Springville was settled in 1850 by 8 pioneer families. So you can actually go. We could go easily further and find out if they were one of those 8 pioneer families that settled Springville. So if you do a search for pioneer family Springville, Utah, there we go. Intermountain Histories, the
Brief
pioneers.
history, Daughters of Utah. A couple of those.
The first
You want me to just
group.
look for Davis on the...
Mhm.
Okay, nothing. Not a lot of names on that page.
Well, try a different one.
That one.
Somebody will list them. Who settled Springville? Go to that question, and the people also ask.
People also ask who settled Utah.
It's not
Marion
specific.
Johnson. That puts us back. Let's see where their footnote goes. Settlers of Springville.
That's just supposed to be on here. Several families had joined. Yeah, I've done a considerable amount of research on each of these cities, and so each. When they said that date, I went,
Just a little too early.
It's too early.
Okay, so this says November 21st, 1850, Franklin Crandall became the first child born there.
Mm-hmm.
And so then he was 52.
So that might have been late enough.
So that might be enough. He's 2 years after the first birth.
It wasn't actually Springville until they incorporated it. Before that, it was Hobble Creek.
Okay.
But anyway, the answer is that we can verify it by doing some fairly quick research. We can verify exactly who got to Springville when. Each of those, all of that's going to be in the history. And if you go to another record that I saw there was his membership record.
Do you want to do that for James?
Yeah. Well, I don't. Yep. Yeah. Membership. Let's see what that tells. What somebody thought it where he was born. See, that says he was born in Nauvoo.
In 47. Yeah, that's interesting to say the least.
So
I was looking at the wrong child. I was looking at James, but they look pretty similar. William. Mm-hmm. Let's go to William. Let's go to
he should have a membership record too.
Yeah, let's go to membership on that one. Springville.
Well, they just listed it as Springville.
So it's what became Springville, right?
It's what became Springville. It's a contemporary, more of a contemporary name than the actual name. The problem with using those is that it confuses the history. And one example from my own research in Arizona is that the town where my great-grandparents came from was called Joseph City. But that didn't happen until 1924, and they got there in 1877. Oh, okay. And so in 1877, it went by the name of Allen's Camp, and then it became St. Joseph. And then because of some acknowledged confusion with other towns, they changed it to Joseph City
Oh, interesting.
in 1924. So it wasn't even. But the problem you have is when you start looking for records, you need to know the specifics when we're talking about the location, because the records for Springville might be different than the records you might find for Hobble Creek. So if you went and looked for Hobble Creek, now what does all this mean, and why would we be worried about it? Well, the main reason why we would be worried about this kind of an issue is because we're trying to find contemporary records, and the contemporary records are going to be organized as all records, all genealogical and almost all historical records are, by location, and then by subject, and then usually by date, and then by subject. So if we're looking for early records and we have a confusion about where someone was born or what happened in a specific time period, we need to make sure that we're on firm ground, that we know where and when all of these things occurred and how to build on that. And the reason why we start with the children of the family is because they're the ones that may have preserved the diaries, the books, the whatever it was, the Bibles or whatever that the family kept for their records, if they did kept any records.
Okay. So we might have records that are contemporary to his life that say Springville, but if we want to be contemporary to his birth, we've got to look at Hobble Creek. And yeah, okay.
And so, in other words, we've got to start looking to the history of what was actually happening at the time. And the contemporary people would not be referring to it as Springville because they didn't live in Springville, and that wasn't the town. So you're not going to find those original records you may find some, and you may find some histories and things like we did. But when you want to go to original records, then you're going to have to look further than the superficial, Northern Arizona kind of records, or Utah Valley kind of records.
Cool. Okay. Now, are we hoping that one of these children mentions the grandparents' names in a journal or something?
Yes.
Okay.
Somebody wrote, or somebody had a letter, or somebody talked about it, or somebody did the original genealogy. Now let's look at one set of records that you can, your same person that you're looking for.
Okay.
William Luce Davis, the father. Go to a family search.
Yep. Okay, I'm on this father here with William Luce.
Now we're going to go do a catalog search.
Okay.
Just go to catalog and go to put in titles. You wanted to title family group. That's all you need.
Okay.
These are, if you go down these are all family group records. So these are family records that were submitted by different families. And you can see, if you go up to the top again, there are a few thousand.
Yeah. So like a grandchild might have submitted this, or a great grandchild of.
Yeah. In other words, we want to see what they said on some of the original family group records that were submitted. Another place to look is to go to search, and then go to the wiki, the research wiki, and look for LDS church records. Okay. So these are all of the early records. And these are the ones that you can go to. And in many of some of these records, the ward membership records, for example, and church membership records, and the original records of some of these, besides the ones that are on Ancestry, and they're called the genealogical records from the wards. All of those records, many times they give their parents.
Okay.
Because they're recorded, the genealogical information was being recorded.
And that may be what we saw on MyHeritage, which was we had gone here, inner sources, and there was this MyHeritage membership record that. Okay, yeah, I think it was here that we saw this mention of the father, William I. and Maria.
Say, okay, so this would be a record that was given by the person at the time that this event occurred.
Okay.
So this is from everything we've seen so
46.
far.
Yeah.
Yeah, everything we've seen so far. This is the closest you're going to get to an original record that right now that we've seen that tells the name. And I would put this much more credence in this than any kind of a later record, because when she when this record was made, she was standing there telling this information.
Okay.
Okay. Now it's not always 100% accurate because people did not necessarily have perfect memories. And even though they were their parents, they weren't always right. I have my great grandmother who recorded my great 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 grandfather, her father's birth record in Ireland, and it was wrong, and it took me about 10 or 15 years to find the actual place. Had to find a record where he said where he was born, not where she said he was born.
Oh, okay.
But in this case, these people aren't available yet, so we have to take this as the basis. So we really should be a correction on the record to say it's I, because I don't know where the Luce name came from other than her husband's. Who's the husband? Her husband's name.
Yeah, her husband's name is William Luce Davis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So why would her father?
So why would her father have the same name
as her husband?
Yeah.
Yeah. That doesn't even. Yeah. I don't know. That would be too unusual, even for my. Yeah, that's not a coincidence. I think that's just wrong.
The little clue there is apparently that this the officiator at their wedding is John Luce, so maybe he was some kind of name in the community or something, but it's still doesn't explain the father's middle name necessarily.
So why would the fathers have anything to do with the officiator?
Yeah, I mean, he would have been born and named long before the wedding of his daughter. So
and before William Luce was known by anybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, unless it turns out to be her family name and they are related, which is not unusual either.
Okay. Yeah. Let's see. Name on him. Yeah, I don't think we don't have good sources on that. Okay. So James, was there?
So now we
go ahead. Yeah.
We can do a little bit. If we do a little bit of more, we look at where William Luce was. We don't have. Let's see what we've got for William Luce Overlin. We have the two records. Let's see what those two records are again. We have a tax record, and that's not a record.
And this one I found before, and I think we decided that it was not a good fit because he'd be 15 in 1810.
How would he own records to get taxed when he was 15 years old?
Yeah, that's what I mean. I think I attached it because it's a William Overlin and in the right area, but then I realized later that it wouldn't be old enough to.
Yeah, unless he's a little bit, quite a bit later.
Yeah,
unless he was born a lot earlier than the record.
Yeah, I mean, and I guess that's part of the mystery is that we don't have any records for his birth anyway. So, is this William Overlin in the tax record him, or is it someone else? But it's in the right place, but it's a problem right now. It's problematic now.
It is possible that it's his father.
Okay.
Or an uncle, or someone else because we don't have a name. I mean, we don't have a date associated with that other than the tax record. So we don't know if that man could have been 70 years old.
Yeah.
Or 80 or 90.
So, yeah, I don't think there's anything more to look at on that record, but it's
just because you find a name in the same place or in a place doesn't help us a whole lot.
Yeah, no, right. Yeah, the names and the places and the dates they line up too. But
yeah, and here's the fast check on that. Just do a general search in the family tree. Go to find a record in the family tree. and look
You
for
want to look at
Overlin.
you want to look in the
Yeah.
in the tree or the records?
Oh, in records. Excuse me. I'm
records.
sorry. In records, just go William Overlin. Just kind of go down through, and you'll see that it's not an uncommon name. If your last name was Overlin, you had a tendency to name your kids William.
I mean, especially if you include Overland, which is like what she wrote in that church record.
Now there 11,000 more people. See that so you can't rely on the fact that you find a name in a record unless there's some connection with that tax record would work to establish a residency and to help search for additional land and property records that would be there. Obviously, if there's a tax record, there's land and property records. And that would help if that were in the continuity of showing where this person had lived, or it was the right time period and we already knew that they lived there or something.
Yeah. I think it was
what I'm surprised that has not been found is when was she born? Let's go back to when she was born.
24.
Well, so in 1820, 1810, 1800, 1790, there's all of those census records that could be searched for William Overlin. And if we know generally where she says she was born, then we would start looking there for census records to see if there's a William Overlin that lives in the place that she was born.
Yeah, that we should do that. Let's see if we can find anything here on that. So yeah, this is where we thought Grayson County, Kentucky was her birthplace, and we could go to say.
So we find the U.S. Census records for Grayson County, Kentucky in 1820 or 1830.
This would be the right place, Spencer, Indiana, or this one.
Mm-hmm. See if they're the same person or they're two different ones.
Looks like the same. Well, page 168. There could be different parts of the same page, couldn't they? So let's open those up. All right, so here's the first one.
In there. There's William. See? And there's a Jonathan.
And Osborne, Overlin, Eli, William.
Okay.
Are you reading that as senior there?
Yeah.
Senior and junior?
Uh-huh. So there's
okay.
there's a possibility that the tax record was for William Senior.
Okay.
And not for William. Now that you found this, and if we have some substantial, at least enough of the records to show that she was really born in this place, then right here we have the name of a family we can start looking for, because there's two Williams and a Jonathan and a Eli and a and so we're broadening the search, and you can almost, in a place like Luce, go to Luce Township and see, let's see how big that area was. Let's see, it has population in 2010 was 2,500 for the whole county, whole township.
Okay.
And if
it's right down on the Kentucky border.
Yeah. So that's all of that makes sense. And it would seem to me that, especially with the migration pattern that went up towards the Northeast, I never could figure out why the people were leaving Kentucky and going north into Indiana and Illinois, but I suppose there's some logic there.
Is already plenty fertile and.
Yeah, but I think the land, there must have been some real issues with land. So.
Okay.
Okay, well, I think we've got a good foot up here. lift you out of put you in the wagon instead of in the mud.
Mm-hmm.
Because what you've got is some names of some people that we can do more research on that in that township. And there's probably a history of it. It looks like they're there pretty early in 1830. That's early for Indiana.
Okay.
And so if we're doing some histories of Luce Township, then I think we probably would find this family mentioned. There it is, genealogy trails. History of the schools.
Let's do Overlin.
There it is. William Overlin.
Yeah. Okay. Got to read up on that.
Okay. You're also going to find some land office records for the original settlers, if they were homesteading. 1850, they're a little early for homesteading. That's 1820. That's before the Homestead Acts, but they were still developing land and they were still being sold. So there's land and property
the GRO records?
No, they're like I said,
too early
started during the Civil War when they started the Homestead Acts.
Okay.
So yeah, see, that's good.
All right. Voila. All right. Thanks, James.
Okay.
Okay. Talk to you soon.
Thanks.